Ana Boado, alumna 2009. Thank you for joining us. We're talking gender awareness and general wellbeing today. So Anna, can you please tell us a bit about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be around in the digital space. Thanks, Nicole, for having me back at St Albans Secondary College. At present, I work for Stella. So I support project management for a literary organisation that is all about addressing gender bias and recognising the vibrant writing by women and non-binary authors published in the Australian literature industry. What is Stella? You might be wondering.
Yeah.
Well, it was founded in the period of 2011, so about 2 years after I graduated high school, but I had no idea about the work that was being done. The Stella Prize was first awarded in 2013. And so part of the justification for the prize came from a statistics project that is ongoing today, the Stella Count, albeit in difficult circumstances. And Stella has always programmed excellent writers to speak to students and deliver schools programs. There is a free offering online for your teachers to sign up to as well, so please let them know if you're keen to get involved in the schools program at Stella.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well done, Stella. Well done, Anna. So let's go back to your time at school. And are there any subject-specific skills that you learned at school or in BCE that are relevant and useful in the job that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started BCE in 2008, I had already been working in customer service for 2 years, balancing this work and my studies and engagement in activities like I was in a cover band and always auditioned for MAC, the school musical.
Cool.
So time management and being prepared for what the day would bring are key skills that I learned while balancing these interests and my commitments. For example, if I started my work shift at Il Padrino's Pizza and Pasta, I would need to bring my work uniform to school, but also make sure I had the right books that I needed for that day. And, I used to do things like keep snacks like 2-minute noodle cups and apples in my locker so that I always had something nearby to avoid wasting time to get to the shops for a snack in year 12. I mean, every hour is precious when you have exams to study for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And now more than ever.
So from the subjects that I did take in year 11 and year 12, I have to say that learning to write in long form for history of revolutions and literature and English helps me draft and make edits to submissions for grants and other philanthropic funding.
Yeah.
As well as writing lots of emails, like developing strong TEEL, T-E-E-L paragraphs in English really helped me with email writing when I was less experienced with it. Now, another subject that I loved was drama. And drama helped me enjoy the feeling of taking a risk that pays off in a very safe environment, right? Like doing improvisation, working in a team, really how to work with others in a way that respects the diversity of ideas while also recognizing when I have an idea that I really care about and how to express it so that others are on board as well. I think personally, one of the most valuable things that I took out of studying biology with Melissa D'Amico, who was my biology teacher at the time, was that the subject of biology really helped me deal with the shame that I had about my period cycle. It wasn't something that we spoke very much about when I was, 14, 15, 16. And being the only woman in my home who was in that hormonal period of life, I mean, my younger brothers had no idea why I was so quick to temper or doubled over in pain once a month, every month. And having grown up instructed by my grandmother who was menstruating in the 1930s, so even more this culture of silence and, talk about it behind closed door among women, we just weren't having open conversations about what to expect or that it's okay to slow down and take care of yourself if your period causes you great pain. Talk to a doctor about it because it is totally natural and everyone deserves to have treatment for pain.
Can you identify a time during BCE which really tested you, and how did you overcome this? And how did you deal with the stress?
Look, Nicole, to be honest, the whole concept of finishing BCE was daunting for me, like throughout. And I have to admit to some troublemaking before I was encouraged to think about and make choices based on what I wanted to be part of the vision for my future. Because for a time there, I didn't think I had any choices to make. And so I acted out in other ways. But, living in a single parent household and making ends meet at that time was challenging. And I think being exposed to conversations about putting food on the table at a young age teaches you that life doesn't hand over opportunity. You have to take it, but it feels better when you've earned it. And this advice, that the gain is worth the effort, so to speak, and just other really good questions and even an ear for my thoughts all came from favorite teachers at St. Albans. And to be honest with you, most of the time it did take a little while to really hear what they were saying and take it on. But I do hope that any current St. Albans students watching might recognize that even in the midst of a pandemic, in this day and age, you do have choices to make. You have so much access to information. And, one of my favorite celebrity drag queens, Chi Devane, says, like, I don't get ready, I stay ready. And I think part of what that means is if you can find ways to deal with stress at this early stage of your life, at the beginnings of your career, which is whether or not you choose to take up a VCE or a VCAL pathway, a TAFE or university, or straight into the workforce pathway, you can bring those lessons about how to deal with stress into all the next stages of your life.
Yeah.
I encourage you to find these quiet spaces. And if you can't find a quiet space at home, do let your teachers know, because they might not understand why it's difficult for you to focus at the moment. Get used to asking for what you need.
Yeah.
And I think, something that I stand for personally is in the power of sharing stories and in building communities. And often one person's problem is something that someone else is also struggling with or has a former experience how to deal with it. But that's the thing, is that people cannot know what you need unless they're being told.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you explain what gender bias is and how it has an impact on study?
I think a way for me to answer that might be to explain a bit about how I came to adopting feminist principles in my life, right? Like I didn't come to feminism the way that many of my peers have, in this really academic sense. It was very much like a lived experience of being a self-determined woman, right? Like in that, in my youth, it was pretty impossible to avoid being influenced by my grandmother. My mamang was a hard woman, but she taught me so much about respect and how aging is a privilege, right? And ingrained this commitment to gratitude, in that to always be thankful for what you do have and to find ways around problems with the resources at hand. I can imagine that still to this day and age, much like it was like for me when I was younger, that perhaps household chores fall largely to the women, right? Because of this assumption that we're nurturers and that we're here to keep the house running, when in fact it can be really empowering for men and young boys to contribute to the running of the family home and to really be part of that teamwork.
Absolutely.
And, I can only recall back to the way that I started to change things for me at home was I watched this movie called Matilda, and now you're going to have to see it to get the full story, but in it, her brother was so mean to this young girl. Like I couldn't imagine it. I knew like my brothers and I were far more friendly with each other than this character was. And so after watching that movie, I realized that like her, I wanted to keep my head in the books. Do you know what I mean? Like that was my happy space. It's where I was most calm, is just reading a book outside, and it was taking on a lot of responsibility at home was really getting in the way of me being able to concentrate. And even though I knew that it is really important for us to have a clean and happy home, it was also really important that day to day I had a happiness as well. So I was just straight up with my brothers. I was like, look, I need you to help. You're old enough to help now. There's nothing that makes me better at doing the dishes than you. And if you learn how to do it too, then we can share the load. And, much like in the movie, I said thanks by sharing sweets, and donuts were definitely a favorite between us. And by the time I started working at Il Padrino's Pizza just on Main Road East, I was bringing pizza home most nights, and the two boys were happy to take on more housework between them for the pleasure.
Yeah. Great. Anna, if you could go back in time, what advice would you have for your teenage self?
You know, I think I keep coming back to how important it is to really back yourself, right? Like to have confidence in the work that you've put in so far. And this, of course, means that you have to do the work, right? And the best way to do that is just to try to the best of your ability all the time, no matter what it is that you're setting your attentions to. It doesn't mean you have to be the best, but you have to try your best, right? Otherwise, you'll know within that you didn't put in what you might have been able to otherwise. And I think that can have a real impact on your day-to-day confidence. And it's a skill set that you definitely need either in further study or in the workplace, or even in running a family, if that's what people decide to do, you know, with their life trajectory. And I think with everything going on at the moment, like trying to undertake education during a pandemic, I know it's not something that I could ever imagine. I don't know how I would have dealt with that particular situation while I was in high school. So I think all I can say is just continue to try your best. You know, and people, your teachers or other people will know that you're trying your best if you can show the working out, right? Even if you got the wrong answer, so long as all your working out is correct, you'll still get marks for that. Do you know what I mean? Like even at the year 12 exam stage, that understanding of the process as much as the end result is just as important when it comes to building knowledge systems. So I think, you know, if you can demonstrate that you are taking both your studies and your interests seriously, that's going to be an important, I guess, objective to see you through the next few weeks and months. And I think as well as that, you know, try to be curious, you know, learn about what interests you, find out what brings you energy. And I think it can be hard when you can't even focus as well as you might have this time last year. But curiosity usually leads to finding a better way to do things. And truly, your teachers want to know if you're having problems with homework or other responsibilities early on. And I don't think it's ever too late to just start being kind to yourself. And, you know, one other thing that I wish someone had told me when I was in high school, because, you know, now in my adulthood, I really value coming from public school. I honestly wouldn't have it any other way because of the things that I've learned, and it shaped so much of who I am as a person. And I will note just very briefly that Ellen Koshland, who is a founding supporter of Stella, so the place that I work, also was recently interviewed by your colleagues at our school, as I'm sure you all know. But just for our audience members, I really want to share what she has to say, because I wholeheartedly agree in that every single person has a talent. Every single person has gifts, and they need the opportunity to develop them. Not everyone knows in high school the way forward. And you shouldn't be expected to know either. But the thing is like, start asking good questions. Okay, that's me riffing off a little bit. But I will continue to quote Ellen and say that the fact that public school education has a broad mix of people is one of its greatest aspects. That it makes the task of catering to very different aspirations harder. So you need to carve your own path. You need to have the confidence to really believe that you deserve happiness, fulfillment, and to continue to try and satiate that curiosity, because once you have a passion for it, it'll see you through.
Absolutely. Thanks, Anna. That's really powerful and empowering advice. So thank you so much. And thank you for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and so great to see your face, and hopefully to see it again soon on campus. Maybe.
Absolutely. I look forward to it, you know, any excuse to come back. And yeah, no, I really appreciate that everyone at St. Albans is going through a really tough time right now, students and teachers. So it's wonderful to be able to connect in this online space. But as I've mentioned, I think I'm a bit old school, and I'll very much be looking forward to meeting and sharing space in person.
Yeah, it'll be fabulous. Okay, thanks, Anna. See you later.